storm in Kirinyaga County as anti-corruption sleuths raid the home of the governor, Anne Waiguru. What is happening there and what is brewing? Good evening and thank you very much indeed for joining us. Tonight we also look at the coronavirus figures and why they are telling a different story as the number of cases continue to rise. My name is Obrien Kimani. This is Business Insight. A detailed coverage of today's event in the world of business as well as finances starts right now, right here. At Obrien Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our Twitter handle. Thank you so much indeed for your time. We are online and on air. A quick look at the highlights first. This graft war is not genuine. Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru claims raids by EACC to her homes are motivated by 2022 politics and not accountability.
Every public officer and every police officer in Kenya that they must serve professionally in accordance with the law and the constitution, and nobody should blackmail or intimidate them to run political errands or political agendas for anybody.
Who is the architect of the senator's arrest action? Deputy President William Ruto says government did not sanction them.
As of today, 854 of them have tested positive for SARS-CoV-2.
Coronavirus batters healthcare workers as the country records another 426 positive cases. Byron Abuli is our sign language interpreter. Welcome to the program. Embattled, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru now claims the raid by Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detectives on her homes and Northeast is laced with 2022 politics. Waiguru doubts if EACC is driven by accountability, claiming she is cooperated with the agency on all its demands, wondering why the detectives had to stage a dawn raid on matters already explained.
Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru now says she wholeheartedly supports investigations on corruption but insisted such investigations must never be about sideshows, politics or image shaming. In a statement sent to newsrooms, the county chief claimed documents evidencing travel or refunds which are alleged never took place have been presented to the EACC, and hence there was no need for deploying a battery of fully armed officers to her house and office. Detectives from the anti-graft agency raided homes and offices of Governor Anne Waiguru in Nairobi and Kirinyaga on Thursday morning in the process to establish whether the trips were actually taken and whether the documents supporting disbursement of the funds were genuine. The embattled governor has dared EACC officers to move with the same energy and speed to arrest those who have looted billions in the government. The raid comes a month after Kirinyaga MCS impeached her, a move that flopped in the Senate. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Deputy President William Ruto says the Monday arrest of 3 senators was not sanctioned by the government. Ruto said police officers should not plunge themselves into political battles but serve the country impartially. The Deputy President, who has condemned the arrest, said the Jubilee administration has invested resources in transforming the country's police service to make it a professional outfit.
Asali yangu hii mimi nashukanga lakini si nilikuwa na vifaa kutumia.
Deputy President William Ruto has once again condemned Monday's arrest and treatment of 3 senators. Ruto said that the police was being used to settle political scores and silence dissenting voices in the country.
Politicians must learn to do their thing and run their errands and run their agendas without involving other public servants that have nothing to do with politics.
The Deputy President said that the conduct of the police service must correspond to the reforms made in the service.
We do not believe that the might of the police should be used against citizens or against leaders. We believe that it should be used to protect and to serve every citizen so that they can achieve their aspirations and we can commit ourselves as a people to driving the agenda of the nation that benefits everybody.
The DP spoke even as the Council of Governors called for an expedited probe into the alleged misappropriation of public resources at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. The call comes amid reports that KEMSA has been unable to account for 43 billion shillings meant for the fight against COVID-19. Last week, KEMSA board suspended 3 top officials at the agency, among them Chief Executive Officer Jonah Manjari, Commercial Director Eliud Mureithi, and Procurement Director Charles Juma to pave way for probe on COVID-19 supplies procurement. Governor Paranya taking issue with the ongoing revenue-sharing impasse, saying the delay on consensus over the formula has paralyzed county operations and slowed down efforts towards COVID-19. Oparanya spoke even as Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka challenged governors to ensure the monies allocated to counties are not misappropriated.
Please do not have a situation where senators are fighting each other, fighting everybody, only for governors to receive the money and then they misappropriate it. We create billionaires out of public money. These things are very painful.
The 12-member Senate committee established to break the deadlock met on Thursday, with sources within the committee telling Channel 1 that consensus may be arrived at in a matter of days. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
The country's healthcare system has been severely battered by the coronavirus pandemic, with the Ministry of Health indicating that over 854 health workers have so far been infected. To date, the country has lost 15 healthcare workers, even as the country recorded 426 new cases in the last 24 hours. The ministry now warning 30 to 39 age bracket becoming super spreaders of the virus.
Cases of coronavirus infections among frontline healthcare workers continue to rise. So far, some 854 healthcare workers have tested positive for the virus, while 15 others dying.
This puts the positivity rate for the healthcare workers at 2.9, which is fairly low compared to the global average of 10%. Of course, one healthcare worker exposed is one too many. We will continue to work together with them to ensure that they have adequate PPEs, ensure that we have done capacity building so that they know how to use the PPEs properly, or practice infection prevention control measures, and also not only at work but back in the community.
The Ministry of Health on Thursday reporting that the country's coronavirus infection rate was at 7.9%, reflecting an acceleration in the rate of transmission of the virus.
And if we were to look and extrapolate this 7.9% positivity rate, it would mean right now in the country, assuming a population of about 47 million, it would mean that we have about 3 million cases. Again, if we look at the change in positivity rate from the beginning of this pandemic to where we are today, it points out that the curve is not flattening.
So far, the country has a total of 31,441 cases of coronavirus after 426 people tested positive for COVID-19 disease in the last 24 hours.
Nairobi leads with 132 cases. Kajiado has 63, Kericho 48, Kiambu 24, Machakos 21, Migori 17, Mombasa 16, Kitui 13, Laikipia 13, both Nakuru and Kisumu have 11 cases, Uasin Gishu has 10, Tharaka Nithi 8, Nyeri Busia 7, Makueni 6, Kilifi 4, Garissa 3, Nyandarua 3, Isiolo and Embu both have 2 cases, whereas Meru, Kirinyaga, Kakamega, Baringo and Lamu all have 1 case.
3 community-level COVID-19 deaths were among 10 fatalities reported in the last 24 hours, raising the national death toll to 516, which translates to 1.6% fatality rate. The ministry indicating that 257 more patients had recovered from the disease, raising the total number of recoveries recorded since April to 17,869. The recoveries included 195 patients under the home-based care program, while 62 others were discharged from various health facilities. The World Health Organization says any country reporting a coronavirus positivity rate of 5% or below may consider itself having its curve flattened. The country has a positivity rate of 7.9%, an increase from 2%. This means Kenya is yet to reach to the peak of the pandemic. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
The Ministry of Health will set up a dedicated COVID-19 testing laboratory for truck drivers at the Coast Provincial General Hospital in Mombasa County. The testing laboratory, which is scheduled to be open next week, will go a long way in fast-tracking the testing of truck drivers, which in turn will speed up the movement of cargo from the port of Mombasa to other countries in the region.
Long-distance truck drivers have been on the receiving end when it comes to the COVID-19 lab tests, with the government insisting that one ought to have a certificate for them to transport cargo across the borders. Their nightmare might come to an end after the Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman disclosed that the ministry, in collaboration with other stakeholders, will next week open a testing laboratory at the Coast Provincial General Hospital specifically for the truck drivers.
We have identified a lab at the Coast General Hospital that we are in the process of setting up testing equipment and reagents, so that when drivers will then be sampled at Meritini, and the samples will go quickly to the lab, tests will be carried out, the results and turnaround time will be cut down substantially, so that truckers then can move on with their journey.
The PS in the Ministry of East African Community and Regional Development, Kevit Desai, noted that the results will be automated and relayed to the border points to end the delays witnessed earlier.
This testing is going to be linked to the system that is being developed by Trademark East Africa on the regional cargo tracking system, where now these test results of truck drivers will be incorporated and will be available electronically within the system at the border points even before the truck drivers arrive there.
This structure will be a regional development with respect to an application that promotes the necessary credence and quality assurance of laboratories that are involved in testing, and ensuring that the certification is then put online with a view of countering any counterfeits and fake certificates.
Dr. Aman reiterated that they are in discussion with other partners to replicate the same testing laboratories in all points of departure.
And we're looking beyond only Mombasa for the truck drivers. We are in discussion with our partners, including the EU and Trademark and others, to see whether we can do this at all points of departure, including the ICD point of departure in Nairobi and a few other places, so that by the time, the idea is by the time a trucker arrives at the border, they have their certificate and they can move through.
The European Union, through Trademark East Africa, donated personal protective equipment to the Kenya Ports Authority worth more than 100 million shillings. For Channel 1 News Hour from Mombasa County, I am Anburu.
Still on the health sector, and the health sector in the country is headed for paralysis if workers make good their threat to down tools in the next 21 days if their grievances are not addressed. Through their unions, workers say they will no longer put their lives at risk in the ongoing fight against COVID-19 as authorities continue to ignore their plea for better working conditions. Suleiman Yeri reports.
More than 160 days after the first coronavirus was reported in the country, it is emerging that 80% of medical workers have not been trained on how to manage the health crisis. 6 health workers' unions are also raising concerns that calls for employers to improve the welfare of staff have fallen on deaf ears. In a joint statement, the unions say 6 medics have succumbed to the virus, expressing fear of the number skyrocketing.
We cannot negotiate on matters pertaining the sanctity of the life of our members and colleagues. Allowing the status quo to continue is akin to accepting that it is to sacrifice medics when indeed this can be avoided.
saying they will not sit back and watch COVID-19 claim the lives of more colleagues. The health workers singled out salary delays in several counties as a hindrance in the fight against the pandemic.
Whenever we have given advisories as the representatives of employees, you have seen how they have dismissed them and dismissed them publicly. And so now, I think what we are saying is that we cannot be complacent anymore, because doing that will amount to negligence on our side towards Kenyans.
Demands by health workers afflicted to Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, Kenya National Union of Nurses, Kenya Health Professionals Society, Kenya National Union of Laboratory, Kenya Union of Nutritionists and Dietitians, Kenya National Union of Pharmaceutical Technicians include a compensation policy for frontline workers who die in the line of duty.
They are not insured. We have been assured during our negotiation at the Ministry of Labor with the Ministry of Health that there's an insurance package. Those colleagues of us whom we have lost up to date, nothing has happened. This should be provided. We are tired. We have been here from the 1st of May when the pandemic was announced. We have been on this platform repeating the same thing day in, day out. I think now our patience has run out.
According to the unions, failure by relevant authorities to meet their demands by September 9th, 2020 will result in total paralysis of medical services in the country.
Baada ya hizo siku 21, kama haya matakwa yote ambayo tumeyaibua hayatakuwa yametekelezwa, basi tungeomba Wakenya ya kwamba sisi tutawakinga kwa kukaa nyumbani badala ya kuenda katika hospitali na kuwaletea maambukizi, kwa sababu tunafaa vifaa ambavyo asina ubora wa bidhaa.
You're watching Business Insights. We are online and on air, live from Broadcasting House. A short break is well deserved, and we are back with more stories. Let's keep this company.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m, on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m, and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. ABC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
On the next episode of Kona.
Nimekorada na story ya kurudi Kona manzi, lakini natafuta tu ile gidha poa. Na wewe usoi dance, nimekupromise.
Sometimes you just have to go for it, you know? But you won't, will you? Unless you know what the landing is on the other side.
No mercy. Ukiwa na opponent unampiga mpaka anakaa down na na remain hapo.
Last chance to change your mind about the Friday Night Warriors.
Go to hell.
Next on.
Tell me your dreams.
Nataka kuomoka.
Kuomoka?
Nataka kutajirika. Let's hope Dad gives him his job back, at least for the sake of his litter of children.
Ouch. So I want you to look after the house. Kamau, it's just for today. Be nice to Kamau.
Sasa imeisha. Fanya hivi. Enda kunywa tumaji wewe, upate nguvu. Wewe rudi yako, hata mimi narudi yangu.
You're still the same old you. Do you think my dad will just forgive you?
Well. It's Kristen.
Kwani nani unakuja hapa kuniuliza stories za Chris?
Zangu alinyuri.
Washa.
Hiyo ni poa.
Namaanisha validate.
Si do it.
Yo, muniitisha mtu wangu na tukawapatia.
Mwenzako I feel so good, pindi nikikuona. Kanyaga.
Top Mashariki, mpango mzima, kipindi ambacho kinakupatia burudani katika kanda Afrika Mashariki. Ukiwa na mie Munyi Kazungu hapa, nite kaka mkubwa na kuletea mahanja. Ungana na mimi Munyi Mtetezi Kazungu kila siku ya Ijumaa kuanzia mida saa 4 usiku. Top Mashariki freestyle au sio ni take over.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
My trust is in you.
Welcome back. Straight on to matters education. The Ministry of Education now wants the university's councils to be responsible for the appointment of vice-chancellors. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Act of 2018 signed into law in 2019, which took away the powers from the councils to the Public Service Commission to advertise, interview and recommend for appointment top managers at the universities, will be revealed.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says plans are underway to enable university councils to conduct interviews for vice-chancellors, then forward the names for consensus before making the appointments.
The law as is now bars the council from any direct participation in the interview. I've already, I'm in the process of changing that law to empower the various councils to be the ones to conduct the interviews and then forward the names for concurrence, then they appoint one after concurrence.
Magoha made the sentiments when he paid a courtesy call at the Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology, whose leadership is currently under acting capacity, after a standoff on the interview process that is currently in court.
So the way it is now, it looks like the process that was that is in the courts is there. Until that person who went to court goes and withdraws it, it's like this excellent university will continue to wallow under acting leadership. It is because of this, let me say, not very interesting politics around this area. This is a university, it's not a political party.
For the process to be achieved, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Act of 2018 must be repealed and have the powers moved from the Public Service Commission to the university's councils. Professor Magoha also toured Bungoma DEB Primary School that has a population of over 3,000 pupils, where he warned heads of primary schools against leaving pupils from poor backgrounds.
I've been to many other schools, but the ones that make me not sleep are the ones that are as large as this, knowing very well that's quite a sizable number of children who come here must be coming from very poor background. They shall not be and they must not be levied.
The school hosts about 100 pupils per class and will have 6 additional classrooms before the tentative January 2021 reopening date. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
Still on educational matters, and the Kenya University Union, Staff Union has objected the planned downsizing of workers by the Egerton University management. Elsewhere, the cruel hand of death has once again struck former Changamwe Member of Parliament the late Ramathan Kajembe's family after one of his daughters, Langoni Kajembe, passed on Wednesday night. More of these in our county news roundup.
The Kenya University Staff Union claims the university is using the excuse of the COVID-19 pandemic to lay off over 400 employees as a cost-cutting measure. The union, however, says cash crunch currently experienced in the learning institution was due to poor management and misappropriation of funds, but not the employees.
We wish to demand that the university terminates these evil intentions of targeting innocent employees. It should stop forthwith. And first of all, re-examine itself and its entire management. What role have they played in bringing down the university?
Elsewhere, a somber mood has once again engulfed the family of the late former Changamwe constituency member of parliament Ramadan Saif Kajembe after one of his daughters, Langoni Kajembe, died last night at the Pandia Memorial Hospital where she had been receiving treatment. According to the family, the death of the family's firstborn daughter was a big blow given that it comes only 2 weeks after the death of their father and a few weeks after the death of both their father's wives. She was buried on Thursday.
We're in a deep pain, but we thank God. We are very strong. We just lost our mother some few weeks ago, then our father, now it's our sister. But it's all God's will. God's will cannot be stopped by anyone.
Meanwhile, 2 Isiolo County officials who were arrested on Wednesday evening will spend a second night in police cells over failure to pay pending bills charges amounting to 83 million shillings to a group of contractors. The Chief Executive Committee member in charge of Finance Abdinasir Haj Dawood and Finance Chief Officer Peter Ngechu are said to have a previous agreement with the business people over the payment. In Machakos County, a Machakos court has ordered for the detention of 9 murder suspects for more days to allow the prosecution time to complete investigations. Machakos Deputy Registrar Kipchumba Kenei ruled that the 9 suspects on the murder case of 55-year-old lady will have to remain in custody to allow investigations.
The national government is seeking to involve counties in the data collection process. If made law, the County Statistics Bill, which is currently in Parliament, will empower counties to collect and produce their own data.
The Ministry of Planning seeks to empower counties to produce their statistical abstracts, which will allow them to conduct data collection alongside Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Speaking during the launch of the Laikipia County's Statistical Abstract Paper 2020, State Department of Planning Principal Secretary Saitoti Torome called for fast-tracking of the county's Statistics Bill, which is current in Parliament, to allow the devolved units to be in the forefront in data collection.
We actually need now to revive that county statistics bill because, just as you know, as per our constitution, statistics is a shared function. The counties themselves, as you all understand, they can actually be producers of statistics, which is now collected by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
On his part, Laikipia Governor Nderitu Mureithi implored that data should be used to solve the current revenue division impasse.
The way forward cannot also be that let us marginalize some other parts in order to fix the original problem. And I think that is why in the architecture of the Constitution, an independent commission is created by the Constitution to help us resolve this issue in a rational manner using data.
His sentiments were echoed by the Commission on Revenue Allocation Chairperson, Dr. Jane Kiringai, who noted the high stakes in data.
And when you increase the weight on poverty, then you are penalizing the counties that have worked consistently for the last couple of years to reduce their poverty level. I keep increasing the weight and giving more money because people are poor, then it penalizes that county that has put in so much to reduce their poverty levels.
We also have information related.
Next on
kama alivyosema Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam ni kuwa malaika Jibril alayhi salam aliwahi kumuhusia awe mwenye kuishi kwa uzuri na majirani zake kiasi cha kuwa akapata kufikiri kuwa wajirani zake watakuwa ni wenye kumridhi.
Alladhina yukadhibuna biyawmiddin ma yukadhibu bihi illa kullu mu'tadin athim.
On the next episode of
Mimi sikuja hapa kufundishwa mapishi bora.
Bingwa potea huyu. I lost. Kisa mtu mzima tena alivyokosa kabisa ni kunifanya mimi kama kijakazi wake. Yaani mimi siku nyingine napika chakula, yeye hajasema nini? Hatio mara chakula hiki sikitaki, nipike kingine.
Sema tata huyu bwana. Haambiliki.
Nafikiri ametuelewa.
Tujali kazi zenu
Ngima tege gaska watu tegu. Ngima te yat mugulel dangu. Ngima te mangue. Nyange begi putinai. Lale, kimi give again. Lale, Kitwat FM gigosi. Lale, Kitwat FM gigosi. Kitwat FM gigosi.
98.0 Kitwek FM Kegosin.
It is time to trade now. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says push for changes in management and operations of the tea sector will continue despite opposition from some quarters. While appearing before the Committee on Delegated Legislation, CS Munya said the tea regulations, which have since been stopped by Labour Court, were in the best interest of farmers.
The new tea regulations that were published last month seem to have run into headwinds after the Labour Court suspended their implementation until a case filed by KTDA workers is heard and determined. According to the workers who also presented the submission to the Committee on Delegated Legislations, if implemented, the regulations will not only reduce their wages, but also declare them redundant.
And the major issue for the employees is that the regulations presented put them in a situation where there would be constructive redundancy and a usurpation of the employment contracts.
I'm sure there is a way of settling that, so that if it is bloated, we see how we can take care of obligations of these employees, the usual redundancy that government does, but not to say we can ensure that they are permanently, all of them there, earning on a farmer who is making nothing. Surely that cannot be a good argument.
This, as KTDA Holding, also appearing before the same committee, faulted the laws, saying they were a private entity, and some proposal, if implemented, would see the agency breach contractual agreements with farmers and might cost them in the long run.
Is that as you regulate, don't impose terms on us. Leave us to do our internal affairs. You regulate policy, because that's what the Crops Act says. It does not give the cabinet minister power to now interfere and take over management.
It is totally misleading to continue calling themselves a private company, unless they have divorced from the tea factories and now they are on their own. If, as they claim everywhere they speak, that the factories own them, and the factories are actually the directors who are directors in KTDA Holding are directors of tea factories, then they are a public company.
Tea factories representative, on the other hand, argued that the proposal to have all tea sold via auction will distort the lucrative markets, further disadvantaging farmers.
We have buyers overseas who buy our tea directly. As mentioned here, that helps relieve pressure on the Mombasa auction. The volumes are reduced. And we have definite buyers who always buy our tea because they want our tea.
However, the agency's efforts to have Parliament abolish the regulations in totality bore no fruits, as members sided with the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, who was adamant that the regulations are meant to weed out cartels in the key sector.
You are not the ones directing elections of every factory from the Nairobi and therefore determining who becomes director. If a director is not speaking your language, you ensure they lose in the elections. We know those things.
I can assure you where I come from, these regulations, especially one man, one vote, and the limitation of the term of the directors, they are very, very, very popular.
The tea farmers are crying of the monopolistic and over-domineering nature of KTDA. That's a fact you can never run away. You see, if you can't reform yourself, surely society, the government has got a duty to reform, to bring reforms in the tea sector.
The committee urged CS Munya to consider making amendments through consultations with relevant stakeholders to some clauses in the regulations. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And Kenya plans to ramp up its space exploration program to deal with various challenges facing the country. This will involve launching more satellites into the space and partnering with global space giants like China, Russia and the United States. Defense Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma says the space program will help battle climate change, diseases and improve the country's innovation and technology. Unknown to many, Kenya's space program dates back to the 1960s when the country developed the Malindi Louis Broglio Space Center jointly with the Italian government to carry out space exploration activities. Kenya failed to keep a keen eye on the development around the space center until 2017 when the government established the Kenya Space Agency.
We are one of the very few countries that have a space program, and this is because the space is becoming an important part of the development enterprise of not just Kenya, but the entire humanity. We sit with a very important asset that is assisting and supporting all the space missions around the world.
Defense Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma says the government plans to develop various initiatives that will propel the country into a major player in the space programs around the world. The country plans to use the space center to launch satellites into the outer space. The space mission will help Kenya track weather patterns, improve global positioning, and enhance innovation and technology. Juma says the space program is becoming an important part of the development enterprise of not just Kenya, but the entire global community.
We are part of the countries that are most respected, that are providing global leadership in this and other areas, including peace and security. You know that we are assuming our seat in the UN Security Council in a short while, from 2021 to 2022. And this region, the Horn of Africa, the Indian Ocean Rim, is one of the key areas. And so
currently, the world is witnessing a new space race pitting three major space powerhouses of China, Russia and the United States, with the latest attempt to explore life in Mars. The race has narrowed down to China and the US, with the former racing to replace the United States as a dominant powerhouse in space exploration. In May 2018, Kenya made its first step into space with the launch of a nano-satellite developed by the University of Nairobi. Elsewhere, Konza Technopolis has set aside space for the establishment of a smart and sustainable SME park and light manufacturing center. Speaking during an official tour of the Technopolis, Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Betty Minor said Konza City was ready and open to investors after completion of requisite infrastructure and welcomed both local as well as foreign investors to set at the special economic zone.
In the current financial year, the National Treasury allocated 11.8 billion shillings for the Konza Technopolis project. This comprised of 5 billion shillings for Konza Data Center and Smart City and another 400 million shillings for Phase 2 of the Konza City Authority's headquarters. Now, the Konza Technopolis is seemingly ready for business following an endorsement by the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development.
It's been, very abstract for many people, myself included, and I think this seeing is believing, so it's really great to see the level of infrastructural development and the depth it is going to, and I'm certain that our investors who have expressed interest in setting up in Kenya will be very excited to note that we're making great strides in providing the service sites.
During a tour of the Technopolis, Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development Cabinet Secretary Betty Minor emphasized the facility's role as a catalyst for the country's economic growth through light industrial manufacturing.
I'm glad that Konza City has set aside some land for light industrial developments, and there are already some investors who have expressed interest in setting up, software development facilities right here, manufacturing electrical appliances and related material here.
So far, Konza Technopolis project has set aside space for the establishment of a smart and sustainable SME park and light manufacturing center, including software development as well as manufacturing of electrical appliances. The move is geared towards enhancing value at several touchpoints through reduction of supply chains, mechanization, consolidation, co-location and common use facilities that will promote upscaling and standardization of products.
This city is meant to drive our economic growth, and central to it is really industrial and manufacturing.
Kenya Investment Authority has been tasked with wooing investors to the Konza city. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Absolutely. The Konza Technopolis is surely taking shape, step at a time. The Cooperative Bank of Kenya has joined the Royal Foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge in the fight against illegal wildlife trafficking by signing the United for Wildlife 2018 Mansion House Declaration. This means the bank also becomes a member of the United for Wildlife's Financial Task Force, committing to fight the illegal wildlife trafficking by way of building illegal wildlife trade into existing financial crime compliance programs.
Cooperative Bank of Kenya has committed to work with other financial institutions to share good practices and support one another in fighting illegal trade in wildlife. United for Wildlife Task Force is fighting to save the endangered species like elephants, rhinos, tigers and pangolins. The Royal Foundation is spearheaded by the Duke of Cambridge. As a signatory to the UFW Financial Task Force, Coop Bank joins other global banks including HSBC, Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of America, JP Morgan, and others that have committed to contribute to the global fight against illegal wildlife trafficking. By signing the declaration, Cooperative Bank is committing to take measures to increase awareness of the illegal wildlife trade and the role of the financial industry in combating it. The bank will be providing training to relevant staff within financial crime compliance functions to enhance their ability to identify and investigate potentially suspicious activity that may be related to the illegal trade. Meanwhile, players in the insurance sector have been urged to rethink their predatory pricing strategies as it is hampering the growth of the insurance sector. Speaking at a CEO webinar organized by the ZIPRI Academy, ZIPRI CEO Hope Murera said the industry had recorded a steady decline in underwriting revenues for the past 5 years. She implored industry players to embrace technology in product development and contribution, which has become even more critical in these unprecedented times. From its research, McKinsey and Company observed that there have been increased adoption of technology by consumers in Kenya as a result of the pandemic, and that most consumers in Kenya expect to increase use of digital and mobile financial services even after the crisis ends.
Elsewhere, British investors plan to construct thousands of low-cost houses in Kenya under the affordable housing project being championed by the government. The UK High Commissioner to Kenya, Jane Marriott, says this is part of the 227 billion shillings investment deals signed between the UK and Kenya in January this year. Under the affordable housing project, the government aims to build at least 500,000 new homes in 2 years' time, targeting the low and mid-level income earners. Already, various projects are underway in Nairobi and Machakos counties, where close to 20,000 units will be delivered in 2 years' time. The project will be replicated in all the other 45 counties, where the government plans to partner with county governments and private sectors to deliver the low-cost houses.
President Kenyatta and Prime Minister Boris Johnson signed the strategic partnership back in January, focusing on mutual prosperity, sustainable development, security, stability, climate and people to people. And projects like this tick so many of those boxes. It's sustainable, it's about mutual prosperity, and it's people to people. It's somewhere to live in a climate helpful, friendly manner.
UK Ambassador to Kenya Jane Marriott says British-based home builder Unit Homes is currently constructing houses in Kiambu County. In January this year, President Uhuru Kenyatta signed trade agreements worth more than 200 billion shillings with UK investors during the inaugural UK-Africa Summit in London.
President Kenyatta, with his Big Four agenda, has put affordable housing for Kenyans at the heart of this. This is a Kenyan-British joint venture. It's going to be 1,200 affordable homes for Kenya, and the fact that it's been done in a green, sustainable way.
Some of the investors target the housing sector in Kenya, where the annual housing shortfall stands at more than 200,000 units. According to the National Housing Corporation, 70% of the shortfall lie with the low to middle income Kenyans. Let's now go to the beauty of Kenya. Nanyuki has a rich history such as the Second World War and is a favorite for safari activities. Conservation activities are also a highlight of Nanyuki, as Irene Muchuma Odim narrates on this week's edition of Magical Scenes.
Nanyuki is the gateway to Laikipia Plateau, one of Africa's most important wildlife conservation areas. Just under 3-hour drive from Nairobi, less than an hour from Meru, and 3 hours from Nakuru, Nanyuki remains a key tourist town in Kenya. The sportsman area is among places where the Second World War happened.
The Second World War was prosecuted from this hotel when the Italians came to Somali and invaded Ethiopia.
The Mau Mau warriors used this as a hideout and for storing their supplies during the war. Nanyuki, which is the gateway to Mount Kenya, is dotted with Mau Mau caves, which it is recommended that one accesses with the help of a guide. Nanyuki is renowned for its landscape and embodies the diversity that Kenya is known for.
We have a whole 13 acres whereby you can have conferences conference meetings both inside or outside depending on the number, and we have endeavored to make sure that every rule that the ministry has said is followed.
Because of the ambience, the privacy, and the service is excellent.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Magical Scenes in the county of Laikipia.
Nanyuki always end up leaving you breathless, and some of the activities actually you can undertake in Nanyuki include hiking, the world famous and UNESCO heritage site, Mount Kenya. But my all-time favorite is trout fishing. You got it right. We are back after the break.
Gaki, wawezaje kunitwangia simu saa hii Gaki? Saa zile tu nimewekelea matoke yangu kwa meza. Niko tayari kukula, wewe ukikula kwako mimi ukusumbua. Gaki, hii simu sisiki yake ya nani? Mimi ukusumbua ukikula kwako. Basi wewe ngoja nimalize matoke yangu tena utanitwangia.
Kupata matoke, bonyeza *811 *965#. Bonyeza *811 *965#.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
People who choose to read their Bible daily, they become wiser and they become stronger than the people who don't read their Bibles. So when you choose hard, difficult things, you become a natural leader. He brings us to church to introduce to us another higher level of relationship that is called a faith relationship. You are also a solution to somebody else's problem. You cannot be the only problem all the time.
Join Pastor Jimmy Masharia on The Master's Touch this Sunday from 8 a.m. on KBC Channel 1.
And still on tourism matters, the easing of COVID-19 restrictions in July was a boost to tourism activities that have been picking up, albeit slowly. The July to September is the tourism peak period, highlighted by the wild beast migration in the Masai Mara Game Reserve. Our reporter Betty Kiptum, who was in the Mara to witness the wild beast migration, had a conversation with the Sarova Mara Game Camp's General Manager Duncan Mwangi about the state of the tourism industry, the projections going forward. This is how the conversation went.
After 3 months of closure, the tourism industry is beginning to reopen and pick up. To just get a feel of how the reopening is going on, what the hotels are doing to make sure that this is coming on right and that their clients are safe, we would like to have a conversation with Duncan Mwangi. He is the lodge manager at the Sarova Mara Game Camp. Thank you for joining us, Duncan.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Could you just give us an overview of the experience of what happened when the COVID-19 pandemic hit?
That was early March when we actually got the first case in the country. And immediately when things started shutting down, we eventually shut doors on the 25th of March.
Right.
And for the next 3 months, very little was happening and a lot of the staff were home. However, remember back in 2018, 2019, Sarova Hotels had started a major renovation of 3 of our properties, being Sarova White Sands, Sarova Panafric, and Sarova Mara.
All right.
So the duration was also utilized to actually capitalize on the renovations.
Ah, right. So it was not all gloom for you?
No, not necessarily all gloom. Not.
Okay. And were the staff on unpaid leave, or how did it happen?
I would say that we are lucky that we were able to sustain our staff. Those who had pending leaves, we definitely gave them pending leaves, but paid leaves, nobody has been on unpaid leave so far. No.
Wow, that is quite the story, because 2 million people in the industry already lost their jobs, or rather lost their pay for that period of time. All right, so now 3 months on, the reopening is happening. How is that going on?
I think it's one of the best news for all industry players to actually have the cessation of movement in Nairobi and Mombasa lifted. That actually was a good sign, and we started seeing people traveling. We opened our doors on the 15th of July, and ever since we've actually been full. We did not open with our full inventory. We opened with half of the inventory, but we've had a high demand throughout. Half of the inventory allows us to work very well in our phase 1 of reopening within the stipulation of Ministry of Health, within the government, as well as the WHO guidelines on COVID protocols.
All right. And when you talk about these full bookings, of course, this happened before the international airspaces were opened.
Yes.
So the clientele that you've been having, are they domestic tourists?
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are domestic.
Right. So that means the domestic tourism is picking up at this moment.
I would say the domestic tourist has actually been held back with the closure.
All right.
And people are eager to travel. And I think generally this is something that we've seen in the industry time and time again. Every time that there is a cause of worry within international travel, the domestic tourist always comes up and actually keeps the industry afloat. So I don't believe that this time will be any different based on what we are seeing. The traffic within Sekenani Gate is actually very encouraging.
Right.
Yes.
The CS said that all the lodges were actually booked out for this weekend, which
Yes.
is a very good sign.
Yes.
There's definitely a refocusing of strategy now when it comes to marketing, because the target market is shifting. The domestic market has to be tapped now. What are you doing about this?
We've also reached out deep in our resources and our strategies to actually make sure that we've geared up for the local market. Local market a lot of times will mean family travel. So as we are continuing with the upgrade, we are also ensuring that we have more family rooms coming up. Our rates have actually been amended to be family friendly.
All right.
Our packages have actually been geared for the local domestic tourist, and the response is very welcoming. Yes.
And as you receive these clients, of course, there's that fear someone might come with that, the coronavirus is still there. I'm going to mingle with people. What steps have you taken to ensure that your clients are at the safest possible?
I think the best thing to agree right now is the effects of the pandemic will be with us in a long while. It's not something that will definitely just go away.
Right.
And the sooner that everybody learns to live with it, the better. I'll give you an example of some of the things that we are doing at Sarova Hotels, and Sarova Mara included in the portfolio. Is initially, or back before COVID, you would arrive at reception and you would be asked for your ID or your passport. You would hand it in, you would be making your payment at that particular time, so there will be exchange of cash and all that. These are two things that we've immediately removed from arrival and put at the booking stage. So when you're making your booking, that's actually when you will send a photo image of your ID or identification, and that is the same time you will be given an M-Pesa option for paying or an online option for paying. So we actually avoid that touching of staff and passing from one person to the other.
Right.
When you arrive at the gate, we also do non-invasive temperature check, and depending on the results, you are either then allowed to come in. But if the results indicate otherwise, then we bring in what we call our isolation protocols.
All right.
After that, you arrive at the foyer and your bags are completely sanitized, both the handles and the rollers and the bag itself. Then you're able to sanitize at that point, where we've actually put sanitizing stations. Then you come to reception and we have social distancing. You will actually discover that the surfaces are sanitized after every other client leaves the counter. Then you will move into the restaurant and social distance is observed. Sarova Mara is known a lot for its lavish buffets. COVID is teaching us to live in a new normal. So now we are actually doing table service. This helps reduce that interaction of the surfaces that one client or other people will be touching. Then you move into the rooms and you find that other than the fact that we have provided hygiene kitties, additional hygiene kitties which have sanitizers and face masks, is that we have actually heightened our hygiene protocols to the extent that we are using UV sanitizers. We are using nano technology. And all this is to ensure that anybody who comes here, including my staff who are working, are completely safe. Yes.
Safety is very important, definitely.
It's the thing right now.
Even as we look to opening our doors, once again. Could you just give us a comparison of how it's the world-based migration right now,
Yes.
that is ongoing. It's normally the peak, really.
Yes.
So could you give us a comparison of how things were before and how they are now?
The first thing is, before I would definitely have all my 75 tents fully booked. And that would probably run for a period of 3.5 to 4 months. Right now, I am fully booked with 50% of inventory that I have opened up, but the booking window is changed because Kenyans will book close to the last minute. Also, as we reopen the industry, other industries are also opening. So you find that the same people who are coming are also traveling more over the weekend because that is when they're free. So instead of having every other day of the week fully booked, you find weekends tend to be very, very busy. Okay. It's interesting because since we opened and when we reach out into the market, a few people are actually able to change their travel dates and opt to work on a weekend and take a weekday off, which actually becomes even much better for them as well. And those are some of the main differences. The other big difference is, I think, and this I think is a big plus for the local market, is that this is the first year that the local market will actually be able to enjoy the migration. You know, most people will watch it on TV, but it's a totally different experience when you're actually seeing it live.
I saw that. It was my first time yesterday. I mean, it was really amazing.
Yes. Yeah. It's something that you can't share on just by word. Someone has to actually experience it and see it. Yes.
That's very important. So even as you've reopened now, how much of the activities that you had before are still running?
Some activities we've actually had to, we are opening in phases, and this is our phase 1 reopening, and some of the activities we've had to actually stop them as we relook at how best to reintroduce them. And a good example is massage. Massage is a contact service.
Hands-on.
And with COVID, we are trying to do things contactless. So I'm sure in the near future we will be able to still reopen it in one way or the other, but currently that is one of the services that is actually not in operation. Yes.
Right. Could we now talk about maybe your community involvement and how you work with the community around here? Could you tell us what you normally do?
We've got a number of programs that we run with the community. The first one, we've got a team of the youth who for lack of certain skill sets, the best we can do is give them a platform where they would be able to come and work with the tour drivers who come in. And we give them accommodation, we give them facilitation for a month. And during that 1 month, then they are able to wash the vehicles for the tour drivers who come in or for the guests who come in. And that is how they earn their living. At the moment, we've not recalled them back. We are working with the county and other players to see how best we can have them tested, have them certified, and then have them come in. We're also looking at how probably we will move that from a 1 month to a 3 month period, because you can imagine doing that every month and having to retest someone else, the same person after a month, then that duration does not really make a lot of economic sense. We also have a number of other activities where we have the women who come in to sell their wares on Saturdays and Wednesdays. But because of the same challenges, we've not been able to reopen that, but definitely we are looking at how best to move on with that. We also have our very famous Maasai dancers who come from the community. And while guests miss them, they understand why we have not engaged them. But again, we are also looking at how best we will engage them into the future. Yes.
Right. So definitely that is in the other phase coming in.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes.
All right. The regulations that were given by the government include not selling alcohol at this point in time. How has that affected your bookings in any way?
Not at all. It hasn't affected the bookings because generally people are not traveling to consume alcohol. Remember that ban is a countrywide ban. So it doesn't mean that certain sections were banned and if you travel to Mara you would then get it. But also to note that recently the CS gave a waiver where you can actually serve alcohol in the rooms. And that means that someone traveling who was able to enjoy their own beer or their own bottle of something within the comforts of their home, once they come into the hotel, the room becomes their home. So that's just an extension of that. It hasn't affected the bookings at all, because I don't think that was the first reason why people are traveling.
Right. So now moving forward, what are the plans for you?
Moving forward is reopening more of our inventory. That is part of our plan. Recalling more of our staff, because we are recalling as we reopen the inventory, and seeing how best we could bring back some of the services that we haven't opened within the new normal of COVID now. Yes.
And now for the Kenyans now, who are probably, as you've said, they've been watching these things on TV, not necessarily even just the Mara, traveling and touring the country as
Yes.
it is. What would you tell them about taking advantage of the gems that we have here?
I think it's a high time that Kenyans realized that we have something that most other countries don't have. The spirit of Harambee, the spirit of coming together. Some of the services we perceive as Kenyans are unreachable because we don't tackle them within our Kenyan background. And our Kenyan background is coming together. If you join up together and form a group, then you are able to get group concessions, rates and something like that. You are able to travel and bring your efforts together, and that makes everything cheaper. Definitely, you would have to travel with people that you are sure about their status, because you just don't want to travel and risk yourself.
Right.
But I believe the Harambee spirit, if well embraced, can actually continue taking us far. Yes.
Very important. So Kenyans should take advantage of these
Definitely,
moments.
definitely.
All right. And one thing that you've mentioned is about maybe the cost, the pricing. You've said that some of your rates have been brought down
Yes.
to accommodate the domestic market. For a while, Kenyans have always felt like it's unreachable, really, it's unattainable. Yeah. So what more can the industry do?
I think generally it's just sharing of information, because even that notion of it being unreachable is more of a perception, but not a reality. A lot of the people, once they come and they look at your rate, they'll say, oh, I always thought that it was, and that tells you that it's just a perception.
Right.
Simply because you have international clients coming in, then you think that I can't get there. The truth is, remember, some of the international clients will also save for long to actually be able to tick Mara out of their bucket list.
That is true.
And I believe that that is something that we can also do, and probably not even necessarily have to save for that longer, because we have resident rates which are much friendlier. Yes.
Right. So when you're feeding your clients here, could you just tell us something about the garden that I have seen? It's quite breathtaking, really, to think that there's such a garden around here where it looks so serene,
Interestingly, that garden started as a corporate social responsibility,
All right.
where we thought, as hoteliers, what more could we do for the society? What more can we do for the community around us? And we thought sometime in future there will be demarcation of land, and how best to input valuable knowledge than show people what they could do once they start settling down. And so we started the garden as a way of saying you could grow some of these things instead of actually always having to buy them. And I can tell you interestingly that the experiment is still ongoing.
Okay.
I'm sure you've seen that right now we are doing coffee. And that is on experiment, and it's actually doing very well. Now, that particular garden gives us 66% of what we use in the kitchen, fresh from the garden. It's 100% organic. We do not use any pesticides. We do not use any fertilizers. We do not use any chemicals at all. And when you look at the leaves of the plants you sow, or you look at the health of the plants you sow, they are doing much better than things that have been planted with chemicals and fertilizers out there. Literally, you can actually pick them from the shamba and eat them. And in that aspect, we actually run a program there which we call live cooking, where you actually pick things right from the shamba. We set a kitchen and a table for you. So we cook and we sit down and you enjoy the meal. It's interesting when you look at the industry, and I think that that is what is starting to happen now with the injection of the sport tourism. Because a lot of people, when you talk to them about Mara, they will think only about animals.
Yes.
They will probably not think of coming and seeing a garden like the one you've seen. They will probably not think of coming and learning a point here or there of how to reuse their eggshells, of how to reuse their kitchen waste. Everything is sort of like dumped away, and yet a lot of that can be reused to better, healthier living,
Right. Okay, so as we come to a close of this conversation, what is the future looking like now?
The future is bright. People are traveling, and the fact that the local tourists are traveling, it will also give a very good confidence to the international travelers as well. But I think the future depends on me and you.
Okay.
It depends on how seriously we take COVID, because it's definitely going to be with us for a while. Are we going to social distance? Are we going to sanitize? Are we going to put on our face masks? Or will we give up after a while? You know? And depending on how we treat it, depending on how we live with it, the future actually relies on that so much. Soon a time will come when we'll be talking about the effects of COVID in the past. But I also believe that the ripple effect of the tourism industry goes way beyond the industry itself. It employs a lot of other people in many other industries, and the responsibility of being able to sustain it relies on me and you. It's interesting when we have people coming from other countries to be the one to tell us the beauty and the awe that we have in our country. I think it's time that we embraced the philosophy of Build Kenya by Kenya. And Build Kenya by Kenya is not only on tangible products. Tourism industry is one of them, and it's something that we need to be proud about. So karibuni Sarova Mara, and let's travel, let's enjoy the country.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with us, and I think that is a very good point to end. Buy Kenya, Build Kenya is not only products, even the services,
Very true.
the tourism industry. Asante sana, Duncan.
Karibu sana.
Well, that was Duncan Mwangi. He is the lodge manager at Sarova Mara Game Camp, and we have been having a conversation about the reopening of the tourism industry and why you should travel more and enjoy the gems that are in your country, Kenya. Ensure that you just get to see these things, because you don't want to hear it from someone from an international country, or rather another country, telling you about what is in your country. You have the opportunity, take advantage of it and travel and tembea Kenya. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do continue watching Business Insight. Thank you.
Well, the State Department of Trade and Industrialization Principal Secretary Dr. Francis Owino has challenged the youth graduating from technical training colleges to take advantage of the industrial development centers in the country. Owino said the government has invested heavily on industrial development centers across the country so that they can be benefit to the young people.
The Principal Secretary in the State Department of Trade and Industrialization, Dr. Francis Owino, is challenging the youth graduating from the technical training colleges to take advantage of the industrial development centers in the country. Speaking at Uriri Industrial Development Center in Migori, Dr. Owino said there is a lower transmission of youth moving to industrial center from technical training colleges.
That take care of our young people, those who can do work with their hands. We have the industrial center, and the equipment will be coming anytime soon. And we also have those who are focusing on IT will be doing.
Elsewhere, a section of Kenyan businessmen who had invested in Uganda are now feeling the pinch of COVID-19 as the border remains shut for non-essential service providers. Led by Festo Onyango, who operates a club and a guest house across the border, the businessmen claim they have been forced to seek alternative means of survival in Kenya since they cannot cross to Uganda to run their businesses.
Linibidi nafanya biashara ya cereals. Yeah. Sasa inaonelea kuliko kuinvest nchi nyingine ili uinvest nchi yenu. Sasa hii tunataka tuanze kufanya investment tufanye kwetu. Sasa nilikuwa naomba serikali itusaidie ili tuinvest kwetu.
Let's now have a look at international business news, where American tech giant Apple has become the first U.S. company to be valued at $2 trillion after its shares price hit $467 in mid-morning trading. The firm reached the milestone just 2 years after becoming the world's first $1 trillion company in 2018. Details next.
The only other company to reach the $2 trillion level was state-backed Saudi Aramco after it listed its shares last December. The iPhone maker's shares have leaped more than 50% this year, despite the coronavirus crisis forcing it to shut retail stores and political pressure over its links to China. Apple's share price has doubled since its low point in March, when panic about the coronavirus pandemic swept the markets. Apple posted strong third-quarter figures towards end of July, including $59.7 billion of revenue and double-digit growth in its products and services segments. The next most valuable U.S. company is Amazon, which is worth around $1.7 trillion. Meanwhile, Qantas has reported an annual loss of almost 2 billion Australian dollars as it deals with the impact of coronavirus pandemic. The Australian flag carrier's boss says trading conditions are the worst in the airline's 100-year history. The firm also says around 4,000 of its 6,000 planned job cuts are expected to be finalized by the end of next month. Qantas said much of this year's loss was due to writing down the value of assets and redundancy payments. With Australia's international borders all shut, the Sydney-based carrier reiterated it was not anticipating resuming international flights until July 2021 at the earliest, with the possible exception of flights to New Zealand. Finally, Boeing has received its first order for 737 MAX planes since regulators grounded the jets after 2 fatal crashes. The U.S. plane maker said Polish airline Enter Air had placed an order for 4 of the planes. Enter Air said the review the 737 has undergone since the crashes in 2019 would produce the best aircraft in the world for many years to come. The jet's recertification is still hanging in the balance. This year, customers have cancelled more than 400 orders for the 737 MAX jets.
On the next episode of Ashoka.
Mir wanted to kill Lady Dharma. And if Mir had killed a queen, then the emperor would have never forgiven Mir. But for the security of Magad, if Mir kills a traitor, then Mir would have been honored.
Don't give him death sentence.
I had punished my own son for being a traitor, Your Highness.
Please forgive me, Queen Mother.
Tunakupa burudani.
Naombea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are two in one. We are two in one. Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Malewa.
Next on.
Muongelesha furahia nikimwambianga tafadhali peleka huyu mtoto hospitali. Lakini shida si kupeleka mtoto hospitali. Shida ni pesa. Juu hospitali pia unailipia pesa, dawa pia unanunua. Yes, dawa zao ziko cheap, lakini kama huna hata 10 hauwezi pewa.
And around 3 to 4 years, that's when it was confirmed I am deaf. And my parents took me to a hearing school, interestingly, but I couldn't hear anything.
Differently abled, differently.
What time now for sports news? Former Nyanza Football Kenya Federation National Executive Council member Tom Alila has said that the electoral body that will oversee the FKF elections should be independent and have an independent office. Alila, who was speaking in Nairobi, asked the electoral board members to hold a meeting with all stakeholders to discuss on a fair procedure to be used in the elections.
Time is ticking and the much-awaited FKF elections around the corner. And with the FKF Electoral Board set to commence the process of listening to disputes arising on the club register ahead of the national elections, the board has been slammed by various aspirants of the chairmanship position, including former Nyanza FKF NEC member Tom Alila.
I find it is nonsensical. He chose his people that are going to be running these elections. For me, they are not independent. They need to be. If at all the independence is there, then they should not have agreed to be housed in Kandanda House. That is in itself wrong. It cannot go that way. They should be having an independent office somewhere else where all stakeholders are comfortable to be meeting with them. They should not be using resources of FKF. They should be having an independent office where they can be, stakeholders can be meeting with them. Deliberations are taken there. Or issues which they are talking about, if these stakeholders have issues, they can be solving them from there.
Alila is banking on his track record when he served as NEC member for one term in South Nyanza from 2013 under the reign of Sam Nyamweya, who is also vying for the post.
But now football is played in all 47 counties, their talent. What was driving me is to bring in the force so that we can use these 47 counties as partners in that the curriculum that we need to have a long-term youth development, which can be taught in school, and then we make for them also playing surfaces, even if it is half, so that we derive these talents. Teachers are very easy to understand FIFA rules. They can be good referees.
Others in the hunt for the position include Sam Nyamweya, Sami Shole, Nicholas Musonye, Moses Sakaranga, and Boniface Usano. The county elections have been set for September 19th, while the national polls have been scheduled for October 17th. Frederick Moki for Channel 1 Sports.
The national soccer team, Harambee Stars, is set to return to action in November after the Confederation of African Football announced the new dates for the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations and the 2022 World Cup qualifiers that had been postponed due to coronavirus pandemic. The Stars will face Comoros home away in the deferred 2021 Africa Nations Cup qualifier match that was scheduled to be played in March. The qualifiers are scheduled to be played between 9th and 17th of November. After two opening matches, Kenya lies second in Group G with 2 points, two adrift of leaders Comoros, Egypt and Togo are ranked 3rd and 4th respectively. The penultimate matches will take place from March 22nd to 30th next year. Meanwhile, the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, where Kenya will face Mali, Uganda and Rwanda, will be played between May and November next year. The schedules for the two competitions had been revised in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, which halted many sporting activities across the world. And elsewhere, paid television company StarTimes Kenya has today announced its acquisition of Spanish La Liga Santander broadcasting rights for 4 seasons, beginning with the 2020-2021 season up until 2024 across sub-Saharan Africa, while also unveiling the start of the second edition of UEFA's latest international tournament, the UEFA Nations League. The company has secured the transmission rights of the Spanish top-tier league, which will be broadcast across its media platform for subscribers in 47 territories, including Kenya.
We think these new sports rights that we have acquired, especially for the football fraternity, is exciting news. as indeed the prestigious football tournaments that our customers have been asking for are increasingly being added to our portfolio.
Well, and at this point, we come to the end of Business Insight for today. Many thanks indeed for your time and company. Remember, coming up next, after Kenya to Aomba, is Inside Government. And of course, the focus tonight, we want to look at the geothermal development in Kenya. The target being to increase the geothermal production from the current about 960 megawatts to around 5,000 megawatts by the year 2030. The question is, where are we? What are we doing to accelerate this program? Joining us tonight is Geothermal Development Company Managing Director, Jared Othieno. Stay right here for that. But for now, we cross over and have a look at the weather. It has been very confusing weather, if you like it. I mean, in the morning it's very cold, then in the afternoon it's brighten up. Muchuma, can you tell us what's happening and whether tomorrow we need to dress lightly or we need to carry the whole wardrobe?
Well, Obrien, if the city was chilly for you today, then tomorrow it will be more colder than what we experienced today. Temperatures will stand at 22 degrees Celsius. And with that in mind, we have no choice than to be warm and pack an umbrella to be on the safe side. It will rain in the city during the morning hours. I'll be giving you more details on the other side of the studio.
Yeah.
Back to you, Obrien.
Very well. I'll bank and I will take your words for them. I'll dress heavily. In case it doesn't work, we have something to square out with you. My name is Obrien Kimani. Dress warmly tomorrow is likely to be colder than today. That's according to Muchuma. Good night. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Bye for now.
There are showers accompanied by thunderstorms over a few places in the county of Kisumu. There are showers over a few places in Nairobi and counties around the region. This, as the rest of the country, has been covered with partly cloudy conditions. But tonight, Narok County is the coldest. Temperatures stand at 10 degrees Celsius. Thank you for your time. A very warm welcome to Channel 1 Weather Updates. I hope you're well. My name is Irene Mchoma Odim. Tomorrow, we'll wake up to a cool and cloudy day here in the capital. There will be rains over a few places during the morning hours. There will be light rains in the county of Meru and Nyeri. These will later on give way to sunny intervals. Sunny conditions will dominate the northeastern parts of the country. Similarly to the northwestern parts of the country, there will be rains over a few places in the western parts of the country. There will be showers over a few places in the county of Mombasa, county of Lamu, and a few areas in Kilifi. Sunny conditions will dominate the southeastern lowlands as much as cloudy conditions will prevail during the morning hours, but then this will change during the afternoon hours. We'll see an increase of wet conditions over the western parts of the country. These are showers accompanied by thunderstorms in Kisii, Kakamega, Eldoret, Bungoma, and also a few areas over the northwestern parts of the country. Mandera, Marsabit, Garissa, and its environs will experience sunny conditions. The coastal strip will be sunny. Similarly for you in Machakos, Makindu, Voi, and Taita Taveta, expect sunny conditions to prevail. Temperatures have gone down in the capital, just as I mentioned earlier. Tomorrow, expect highs of 22 degrees Celsius. Mandera will experience highs of 35 degrees Celsius. This as counties in the northeastern parts of the country, southeastern lowlands, and coastal strip will experience strong southerly winds of 12.5 meters per second during the afternoon hours. Up next is the international forecast. Rain or shine, be well.